Hey folks, welcome back. Another low budget, non-rehearsed, no edited movie review just for you on this lovely Thursday afternoon. I am broadcasting live from my native land, Orange County, and I am doing a review that has been a long time coming since it came out. I've been just trying to find the time to see it, and my mother was gracious enough to go see it with me today while I was in town at the Century 25, former location of the drive-in theater there on Catella and the 57 freeway in Orange, California. We saw the new Elvis biopic movie. Biopic? I don't know. This movie, it came out a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to go see it with my wife, and then my uncle died, and as it happened, I just had to make a quick trip down here to Orange County without her for his funeral, so we dashed into the movie the day before the memorial, kind of take the edge off and just relax and unwind. So this Elvis movie, it has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 78, 7.8 out of 10 IMDb, and 93% of Google reviewers like it. It's directed by an Australian director, Baz Luhrmann. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. The cinematographer is also Australian. So this movie is starring Austin Butler, 30-year-old actor. Interestingly enough, he is from my hometown, Anaheim, California. Didn't read into it any more than that. That's it about that guy. But all that to say is I went in fresh, didn't see anything other than the previews, didn't read up about it. I know a lot about Elvis. My dad was born in 59 and my mom was born in 60, so they kind of grew up in the Elvis era, and my parents were senior in high school right around when Elvis died in 1977. So for them, it was a very important type of a movie because it was like their life experience. My dad grew up loving Elvis, and Elvis 8 tracks growing up live at Madison Square Garden. I remember my dad had that 8 track, and they had this like 6 cassette box set of like Elvis signature collection, anniversary collection, and I remember that being played all the time growing up. So Elvis was a big part of my early life. I have a bunch of Elvis LP records, and I grew up loving Elvis. So this movie appealed to me in that regard, just because a lot of people in my family, as he's an international superstar. I guess a lot of people love Elvis. So that's nothing really special. People have whole rooms in their house dedicated to the king of rock and roll. So that being said, this movie, at first, me and my mom talked about it, and it was kind of like, he directed Moulin Rouge, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and The Great Gatsby with Leonardo DiCaprio. Those movies, heavily CGI, very stylized motion pictures. And you know what? This movie started off very stylistic. Lots of different mediums portraying the film. It just felt very CGI-ish, very computer generated to create these past images, but the way that they would do the lighting kind of was reminiscent of, like, to me, The Great Gatsby movie. At certain points when they would do these early sequences in the film, then at one point you kind of like had this little comic book sequence. I mean, you think about it, you have to encapsulate 40 years of a person's life, so I would say that was one thing that they kind of had rushed through it, and that kind of irritated me, and all these sequence changes of different ways they would portray the movie really bothered me at first. And then when you get to the later half of his life, like his Vegas years and kind of like the twilight years of Elvis just coming to a close and passing away at the age of 42. Hang on, I gotta pause for a kombucha sip here. Live on camera. Probiotics. Anyway, it just kind of shifts into more of a traditional biopic where it's not so like all over the place as far as stylized. It felt more normal. I have read a few things, sidebar, about Tom Hanks playing the Colonel Tom Parker. A lot of people didn't like it, they hated it, but I think that was kind of the idea. He was a hateable character because of like they kind of cast him as this villainous guy that destroyed Elvis and snuffed out his life by making him this dancing carnival attraction, essentially, and milking him for all he was worth. 50% of whatever he earned, he took from Elvis. But, you know, I don't know. That's another story for another time. Right now, we're talking about the movie. So earlier on, I was like, this movie's not really sitting well with me. And then, like I said, as the movie went on, it had to have been over 2 hours long. I didn't clock the time. I apologize for not doing that and mentioning it here. But PG-13, a lot of profanity, wouldn't bring the kids. Very period correct. I felt like it was very authentic, because I'm always like hyper fixated on period correct films and like, is this legit to the time? And it was very well done in that regard. So, you know what? My love for the movie grew as the movie went on, and I thought that the Austin Butler was like an Academy Award winning or nominating. He's worthy of a nomination for Best Actor, I think. Like, it was kind of like when you watched Jamie Foxx in the movie Ray, you kind of forget that it's an actor. Or, like, you know, even like the Queen movie, you know, you just kind of think like, okay, that's Freddie. Pause. We got someone coming.
I got this stuff. Let's go.
We're going to pause for a moment and we'll pick up back on the other side. Bear with me, folks. Finishing up this review in my parents' guest bedroom. Once upon a time, it was my brother Chad's bedroom here at my parents' house in lovely Orange County. So, sorry for the weird cutting out and cutting back in, but it is what it is. I watched a 1987 Nightline interview with the Colonel Tom Parker. That was the other big character, big personality character that was featured in this film, played by none other than America's actor, Tom Hanks, one of my favorite actors. I feel like a lot of times Tom Hanks is just Tom Hanks in his movies, but this role of him playing the Colonel Tom Parker, who was Elvis's leech-like manager, and I say that even after watching this 1987 Nightline interview with him, that's on YouTube here, he just kind of seems like he is like not really with it as far as like how he affected Elvis. He kind of takes a lot of credit for who Elvis was. But then he also tries to like, oh, well, Elvis was free to do what he wanted to do and blah, blah, blah. Because I think he knew there was a stigma that he may or may not have led. Like the movie to me kind of portrayed like possibly Elvis's life was cut short because he just gave up. He was under the thumb of this Tom Parker guy and wanted to be out on his own, doing world tours and doing his own thing. But Tom Parker kind of held him over a barrel. And I didn't realize that the Colonel Tom Parker was a Dutch guy. And this movie could win an Academy Award for Best Makeup, because I watched the video of the real life Colonel Tom Parker and then the transformation of Tom Hanks to portray that person. It's freaky. They did such a good job. The vocals were like a little cheesy. He sounded very German-esque. Well, I guess the Dutch accent is kind of its own thing, but like if you watch videos of the real Colonel Tom Parker, the Dutch accent is very slight. And Tom Hanks was a little heavy-handed to me in that regard, but the makeup was perfect. His narcissism, the way how narcissistic he was and not really taking any responsibility for leading Elvis down this path of self-destruction, they kind of pinned a lot of the blame on this manager, the Colonel Tom Parker character as played by Tom Hanks. I did think his performance is great as well. But it all culminates, like I said, it started off slow, but then it had a build up, and towards the end, I loved it. I am high 4 out of 5, borderline 5 out of 5, but I am 4 out of 5 on the movie. I would highly recommend it. It's a great film. Worth seeing on the big screen. If you like biopic movies, if you like Elvis, you just kind of forget that you're watching a movie about a person playing another person, and you just kind of get lost in the story. You know how it's going to end, but it was done very well. So that's my review for today. Sorry for the weird edits. That's kind of what we do here if you've watched the channel for any amount of time. No thought whatsoever to the camera angles and editing. All done right here on my iPhone. Until next time, we'll see you then.